let me try and rephrase this. In church, it is told that to be a virgin is a good thing. However, do you think that churches are generally have virgins in them?
Nope.
I don't think they have virgins in them, no.
Explain. What do you mean? Why?
I've got real life proof examples of girls I've met in church that are not virgins.
So these non-virgins in church, do you think that even the most pure place that women are supposed to be, church, cannot stop human beings from being promiscuous?
I mean, I think humans are promiscuous by nature.
Mm.
I think that's just what we are. I think it's more socially accepted for women to have sex now, whereas before it's more frowned upon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay. Women have sex. It's okay. Like, it's not this big taboo thing anymore. If we're talking about women still, we're talking about just men and women.
Men and women, virgins in general.
I think humans are humans. I think whether they're part of a church or not. I think maybe it's promoted more to hold your virginity in a church, but I don't really see that being in my experience where I grew up, I didn't really see that being a factor.
You grew up in church, pal. What was the virginity like amongst the people in church when you grew up?
I mean, I would say like it was just delayed because I went to Catholic school. So everything that like the public school kids were doing at like 14, 15, like we did just like when we got to college, I would say it was kind of delayed. The other church I was a part of was like a Christian church. And I would say the girls, there was a couple girls I met there that like waited till they were married to have sex, but they got married pretty young. So I don't see girls being more pure like over a certain age in church. Like if they are like they're married typically at like 20, 21.
Right.
Like you don't meet a lot of 25-year-old virgins in church.
No.
You can come on in. He didn't leave, guys. He just went to the bathroom. Everyone was like, he left.
Do you think church nowadays, because I've been to a few churches, I don't go to church anymore, but I would look at the outfits in church from some of the ladies, right? Like, do you think that church promotes purity when it comes to like some of the like things that people do in church? Or do you think it's just like a show?
I think it's the very conservative, pure mindset where we don't talk about sex because it's taboo and you shouldn't have sex because, you know, you will be judged and you have to, you know, preserve yourself and that sort of thing. And I think naturally when people are told that they can't do something, they kind of get more curious about it. And I think we can kind of sexualize anything if we feel like it. So kind of, you know, when you have like an excessively pure space, right, it's really easy to start sexualizing that because that's kind of the whole opposites, you know, on the same spectrum, right? There's always going to be a middle ground and you can really kind of really project that onto it. It's easy to distort it like that, if that makes sense.
I remember your video, Pearl, when you were saying that these pastors are like pimping out these.
Oh no. Okay, I have this theory about church.
Yeah, go on.
And I will say this isn't my church because I grew up in Catholic, so Catholic was a little different. But I have this theory that like the the pastors are like the homemakers, and what they do is they say you can be forgiven for being a hoe because they want to sleep with all the congregation because that's what they do. So they're like, yeah, you can get forgiven, and then they're like chatting to them after, and
Wow.
yeah, so like, and then they market it because what they'll do is they market wholeness because they have the chastity speakers come back and they're like, yeah, I did this, this, and this. And it's always the girl that got ran through and then the husband that married her and who didn't and he was like more pure. And then the girl's like, yeah, I got ran through. I did all this stuff. But then I found God and found my husband. And so they're like, yeah, you can just do whatever you want and then still find a husband at the end of it. And so I feel like in a way, some churches market hodom.
When you say ran through, are you saying being slept with lots like
yeah, like you know,
that's
yeah, like I slept with him and him
term.
and him. Yeah, so like,
yeah, cool.
Sorry,
yeah,
sorry, no, I just wanted some clarification on that. I wasn't sure. What
yeah,
the term
I don't know what the
ran through.
What would you say is the specific point someone has ran through? I don't know what the number is.
Yeah, no, I'm going to leave those statistics to you guys.
I mean,
I don't.
I've
You guys
heard
into
I've
the
heard a lot
stats,
of women
guys.
in college have trains ran on them.
That's it. That's I would say that's the definition of being ran through. It's like
Right.
more than like 2 sexual partners in a night.
Too sexual.
You know.
Yeah, well, because men and women are different. It's hard for men to get sex. It's easy for women to get sex.
Yeah. All right. Sweet. I'm just still just clarifying.
Do you think men can be hoes?
Nope.
Why?
Explain.
For a man to sleep with a lot of women, he has to be inherently attractive or have value. He can't just run around sleeping with women. It doesn't work like that.
But if he is attracted and has value and runs around sleeping with a lot of women, could he be a hoe?
No.
Why?
Because again, right, attraction is a very subjective term, and women don't typically look at a man's physical appearance to determine attraction. They typically look at behavior and like communication style.
Fine, but if he's sleeping with a lot of women, and if we're putting women in the same context, if she sleeps with a lot of men, she's a hoe. If a man sleeps with a lot of women, regardless of who he is, how attractive, his value, whatever, if he's sleeping with a lot of women, wouldn't he be a hoe?
You're applying the exact same parameters, but withdrawing the end
Well, he can't.
conclusion.
A man can't get pregnant, right? And so there's no negative consequence to him sleeping with a lot of women.
I mean, STDs, but also why is that?
And the
Why is there a double
purity
the
standard?
implication here is that a woman who sleeps with a lot of men, right? That's what
Because
we're talking about.
because that's easy to do. So it's like it's easy for a woman to just sleep with a lot of guys. Go outside and say, "Does anyone want to have sex with me?" You can get it done. If a dude does that, they look at him like he's nuts.
Probably call the
A dude,
cops.
like
He's a
you know what
creep.
you know what changed my like perspective
Yeah.
on this is I went to a pickup artist boot camp once. This is the wildest thing I've ever seen. Like these guys paid thousands of dollars to learn how to get laid.
Yeah.
Thousands of dollars, and literally like went through coaching, like trying to figure out how to build attraction with girl, like all this
Yes.
stuff.
So-
and I'm just like, all I have to do is exist.
So if
Yes.
we bring that back to what we're
You have
talking
a
about,
vagina, you will
And-
get laid.
but
But if we bring that back to what we were talking about in terms of virginity when we were younger, in terms of like girls weren't really thinking about it that much and men kind of saw it as this victory, right? Isn't that what we're taught? That's what's pushed onto us, that men losing their virginity and sleeping with lots of women is like this, like high achievement. So they pay lots of money because if you get laid a lot, then you're seen as, successful, right?
Yeah, I would say it is a high achievement because historically most men didn't even reproduce. Only 40% of men reproduced historically, where 80% of women did. And even up 8,000 years ago, 17 women reproduced for every one man. And so it's like that's an achievement. Most men don't even get to reproduce. And I know like now, you take away the reproduction because we have birth control, but you don't get rid of biology.
So are we reducing it to reproduction then? So a woman who
Well,
sleeps
that was
around...
the initial
Yeah.
reason for
But
sex.
we've definitely developed as a society, right? Past that point where it's not just about reproduction.
But I'm saying like you can't get rid of the way people feel.
In terms of...
If like men are naturally predispositioned to be repulsed by a girl that sleeps around. And so I'm just like the same way typically women like men that are taller than us.
Yeah.
And men don't come to us and say, "Oh, you shouldn't like men taller than us." Like, no.
So I would say again that would like...
Yeah, there's some angry little men out there.
Angry, honestly.
Sorry, continue, Pro.
In terms of that,
no,
like evolving over time, right? Biologically evolving over time, I'd say that there's other attitudes that have also evolved over time, kind of, and that are probably taking up more space now. Maybe haven't got to the same point as that same mindset, but I do think we can get to a point where that can shift, right? Especially because it's evolved. It's a mindset that's evolved based on what we've been taught. We can be taught different things and change that gradually, but we have to be open to that.
So I agree with you. I do think it's evolved over time.
Yeah.
Where like typically before, as I said, like I would say men are more forgiving with body count than they used to be. So I would agree with you that it has evolved. But is it better? Like, are the outcomes better
I would argue
nowadays?
that any space that kind of promotes, like I said, acceptance and understanding of why we behave in certain ways and why we drift towards certain things and understanding how it can harm. Because I feel like that kind of mindset of like, in terms of, if you slept a lot of people as like woman as a man, you're successful is essentially harmful. Because it places a lot of that emphasis on that
Harmful to
like
who?
hyper
but
masculine.
the thing is, it's true.
Yeah.
And I just think like you can live
think
in
it's harmful to men?
delusion and
But
you can.
it's true right now, and I would agree with that. Yes, 100%. I would say that is, if we talk about like the general, that is kind of the general mindset at the moment. I would agree, but does that mean it's the best mindset, right? And
But
wouldn't it be-
who are you to determine what's the best mindset?
Yeah, because I'm trying to understand who you said it's
I'm
harmful.
not-
Harmful to who? Like who's it harmful to?
So
Like
Okay, so in
I
terms
think
of
it's
like situations like rape, right?
Mhm.
Men who or like incels, right? Who don't maybe have that same achievement, right? They kind of resort to quite violent means in order to reach that same level of success, or they feel kind of like, you know, put out because they don't get to be able to do it. And that's why incel culture kind of develops, because they think like a certain group of men only gets all the women because, you know, they're this high level, and then often they turn violent, right? And it can be a very destructive view when you place all the emphasis on that like macho is probably not the right word to say there, that like hyper masculine focus on sexuality and seeing it as something to achieve, right? When we do that and then men don't, and then they don't feel masculine anymore and they feel emasculated by it, and that can turn very violent. So it can be dangerous for society. And I'm not saying this is me, you know, saying, oh, this is, I'm saying it's a point to consider. It's a thing to talk about when we're considering what's best for everyone.
You're actually somewhat